Sully here, the retired tanker yanker. Welcome to Transitions, my YouTube channel. Well, today's election day, and after I shoot this little video, I'm going to head out to the polls. I'm dressed for cooler weather today because it's rather brisk out there. It's in the 30s right now, and I guess November, we got to start thinking about winter coming. I watch weather predictions on YouTube, and for our part of the country, we are expected a colder than average winter and a wetter than average winter, which means we're going to see some snow this winter. We had quite a few heat waves this past summer, and like I said, I'm not crazy about cold weather. I prefer warmer weather. Spring and fall are my favorite times of the year. I like to be able to go out dressed in shorts and t-shirts or tank tops even though I don't have the body for tank tops. You think that's pretty bad now. You should have seen me when I weighed 400 pounds and try to dress like that. Looks like my keyboard problems have solved themselves. I guess I had what was called a senior moment. I do recall having that problem with the keyboard before, and I solved it by restarting the computer. And well, I wonder why I didn't remember that. That's one of those senior moments, I guess. But before I go out to vote, I thought that I would talk about something in my life. And that is why I never married. Most of my friends that I grew up with are married. There's a few that are still bachelors. But I guess I'm not the marrying kind. I did come close once. I was very much in love with a woman, and I thought she was in love with me too, but her idea of marriage was security, not out of love. Love is about the last reason you want to get married, according to her. But she did agree to marry me, and I really thought that we were going to get married. I even moved in with her, and it required me to make a significant move from Philadelphia to the Pottsville area. I had been going with her for about 8 years at the time, and once I moved in and was getting settled in there, she informed me that she was still married to her previous husband. Now, for whatever reasons, I'm not going to go into there, but basically, she married a guy that she expected to die in 15 minutes, and he hung on for 10 years. And by that time, we had gone our separate ways. And I still have feelings for her, but we don't speak anymore even. She blames me for one or more of her harebrained schemes that never came to fruition. It is what it is, I guess. But I was not inclined to marry, and the reason why is if you marry, you're going to reproduce. And this is hard to talk about. Those of you who know me probably know this story, but those of you who don't, I think I could share it with you. It was 10 days before my 15th birthday when my father died. He had a heart attack about a year earlier, and we didn't realize how bad it was until he went into the hospital for bypass surgery. We didn't realize how much damage that heart attack had done to his heart. Actually, those two massive heart attacks had done to his heart. This was 1971, and bypass surgery in those days was done as a curative rather than a preventative. And Dad literally died on the table during surgery. This came back to haunt me in 2018 when I went into the hospital for an emergency procedure when they put a stent in my kidney, and when I came out of anesthesia they informed me that I died on the table. They were able to revive me. So I guess every minute I live is a blessing. And if there is a higher power in this universe, maybe that higher power was looking out for me on that day. I don't necessarily believe in divine intervention, but there are people who do. But at not quite the age of 15, I was confronted with the reality that I was going to grow up with one parent being gone. Now, I could relate to it because my father lost his father when he was 9 years old. Now, Pop died of tuberculosis in 1933. But Grandmom Sophie, my dad's mother, lived up until 1955. That's also the year that my mother's father passed away, 1955. And my mom's mother lived till 1960. But I also had to confront a reality that these people died in their 60s. So Mom was a widow, and she was very heartbroken. She was very devoted to Dad. So it took us all as a shock when one day she got sick and had to be taken to the emergency room. And this was like in the wee hours of the morning, like about 3 in the morning, when we had to call the emergency room. She'd been in the hospital earlier that day, and they sent her home, saying that they really didn't find anything wrong with her, but there was something wrong with her. And I don't even think she made it to the hospital. I think she died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And I was about 2 months away from my 17th birthday when that happened. So here I was, not quite 17 years old, both of my parents dead. So the reality was that I came from short lifespans. Well, that's not necessarily so. My dad's grandparents lived into their 70s, and actually one of his grandparents actually lived to be in the 90s, and he had several aunts that lived in their 80s and 90s. And I had aunts and uncles who lived well into their 70s, 80s, and even their 90s. So there is some longevity in my family, but I wasn't aware of that at the time, and I really expected to check out by the time I was 50. The reality again hit home in 2008 when my brother passed away at the age of 57. Now, to be fair, my brother, although he did have some heart problems, he also had cancer. He was a cancer survivor. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which may or may not have been a result from exposure to Agent Orange when he was in Thailand. He was at the base where they loaded the planes and where they stored the Agent Orange. And he worked in close proximity to that. That wasn't his job. He actually, his job was to load nukes onto aircraft, and he did maintenance on the Spectre gunship. He did weapons guidance control on the Spectre gunship, the AC-130, which basically you can Google the AC-130 Spectre. That's basically the Hercules, the C-130 Hercules that's converted into a gunship. It was top secret in Vietnam, but the first Gulf War, it was there on CNN for all to see. He beat that cancer only to develop colon cancer, and that's eventually what killed him. The colon cancer was in remission, and during this time he also had heart bypass surgery. And in 2008 he had his heart checked again, and they told him he needed another round of bypass, plus he needed a pacemaker. And it was about this time that his colon cancer returned. And I think he realized that the end was near. He just decided he was going to do it on his own terms. Stopped taking all medication except for pain, and one day in September of 2008 he just dropped dead. No fuss, no muss. Just checked out. Well, that's the way I hope to go too. I don't want to die a lingering death. But my health is generally pretty good at the age of 63. So maybe I got some of those longevity genes. But when I was a young man and realized that dying young was in fact in my genes, I really didn't want to see a kid have to grow up losing one or both parents. So I avoided getting married. I mean, I also liked being single because you had a certain amount of freedom. I won't get into it. Have I reproduced? It's possible. People ask me if I ever had any kids, and my response is none that I know of. And people think I'm being a smartass, but actually, none that I know of. That's the truth. My wild oats could be out there. I don't know. So far, nobody's come forward and said, "Are you my daddy?" And I've also always been careful. I always protected myself even when it wasn't the fashion. So now I'm 63 years old, and the guys I've grown up with are now grandparents. And we all have senior moments. As I got older, I realized that, hey, I might make it to retirement. I didn't plan to retire when I did, but as I've said in the past, my back had other ideas. It is what it is what it is, I guess. So all I'm saying is, I have no regrets over the life I chose. Except I probably would have saved more money if I had to do it over again. And, well, that's about the way it goes. I hope this hasn't depressed you thoroughly. Anyway, I'm getting ready to go out and vote. And I'm going to make a video showing the new voting system, if they'll let me. I still don't know if they're going to let me or not, but it is what it is. So let me download this video to my computer, upload it to YouTube, and then I'll be heading over to the polling place. So remember, today it's November 5th, Election Day. Vote early and vote often. For Transitions, this is Sully, the retired tacky anchor. Safe and happy travels.